Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinoski. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
All right, welcome back to Detroit. I'm live from the floor of the American Gear Manufacturers Association's Motion and Power Technology Expo. That's a mouthful. And I'm here with Joe Goral. He is with Bourn Koch. I'm sorry.
Bourn and Koch.
Bourn and Koch. Thank you.
Yep.
And he's here to talk to us about what they do. Welcome.
Yep. Thanks for having me on the show, Jim. Pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you. So, we've had a full morning already, and we're launching into the afternoon. Glad to have you on for that. And so, I always like to start with, tell us about yourself and tell us about the company and how you got doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So, Bourn and Koch was founded in 1975 by Larry Bourn and Lloyd Koch. There were a couple of engineers. They worked for Sunstrand Machine Tool Company. They kind of went out on their own, started retrofitting and remanufacturing Sunstrand's machine tools. It wasn't something Sunstrand was interested in doing necessarily. They were interested in building new equipment.
Yep.
So Larry and Lloyd found themselves a niche in rebuilding and remanufacturing.
Nice.
They got really good at doing that. Bought Barber Coleman, which is a name very familiar to everybody here. They bought Barber Coleman's machine tool division, which was the 610 gear hopper, the 1616, the 1636. Line of lesser-known shapers that they manufactured and also had acquired. So, like, they acquired Drummond because they couldn't compete with Drummond. Yep. And
it's a good move.
And so they bought Barber Coleman in 1985. Yeah, that's one way to do it. Yep. Barber Coleman was a massive conglomerate. They they did controls, they did garage doors, they did garage door openers, fans, then also machine tools, textile machinery too. So we got their whole machine tool division. So that's kind of our foray into gear manufacturing and gear machine tools. So we were building Barber Coleman's machines, retrofitting, remanufacturing them, still doing a lot of this very special remanufacturing and retrofitting work. Along that time, got into custom machine design in the 80s and 90s. So very niche solutions for very niche problems, something we're still very good at today. And along the way, started doing a lot more with gear manufacturing machines, retrofitting and rebuilding them. Started our own line of gear manufacturing machines. So the Bourn and Koch gear hoppers, like we make a horizontal gear hopper, very much like the Barber Coleman style of machines. The hob heads oriented a little differently. Then through a series of other acquisitions, like we bought Fellows, another name that's very well known to the gear manufacturing industry. And then we bought the lion's share of who's who of American machine tool companies. So Bullard, Blanchard, DeVlieg, Mach, Springfield, I mean, just almost any company that's had any sort of impact on American machine tool manufacturing, we own all of the IP. So
nice. Wow.
You go up in our archives and we have every print, every drawing, every this, every that, every this. So we build those machine tools as well. And you fast forward to today, and what we really focus on are still custom machine tool solutions for very, very specific manufacturing problems, customizing our own machine tool platforms. So like you might have a Blanchard grinder that you're looking at, but you have a very specific type of part you want to do or a very specific process. We can help you out with that. Something that not necessarily a used machine or a rebuilt machine is going to cut the mustard on. People usually come to us, and it's usually the tough stuff. Yep. Same thing with gear manufacturing and other special machines too.
So let's drill into that a little, because I'm sure there's plenty of people who are going to see this who don't really know how gears are made.
Yeah.
Right. Without going too deep into the woods, what are the different operations your machines accomplish, and what are they doing for your customers?
Sure. So we make hobbing machines, which a hobbing machine uses a hob, which is it's like a cylindrical tool. It has flutes, so think about like a spiral going all the way around it, and it has gashes, and those gashes create the cutting surface that then removes the metal. Hobbing is a generative process, meaning that it actually generates the gear. So what it's doing is using those teeth on that hob to generate the teeth on the gear. Okay. The teeth, the form of the hob generates the form of the tooth. And our machines are horizontal gear hobbing machines, meaning that they hold a shaft in this orientation like this. This would be your shaft. And then the hob moves along it. It's called a parallel axis gear manufacturer. So the other thing that our gear machines do is shaping. Shaping is also a generative process. It uses a disc or a shank style cutter. So like think about a round disc, looks kind of, has the shape of the teeth all the way around it. And then that moves in a reciprocating motion up and down to remove metal. So your shaper cutter is rotating, your workpiece is rotating, keeping engagement. And then as the parts are moving around each other, they're in feeding toward each other to get the teeth all the way to depth to generate that gear.
Yep. Let me ask you to move a little closer to the mic so people
there we go.
Make sure they can hear you.
Cool.
So when you talk about all the intellectual property that you guys have picked up now, that's got to give you a lot of weight within the market. So now how do you leverage that when you go to market with your machines?
So a couple of different ways. So number one, we can make you a part off of your machine exactly the specifications that it was originally made to. So let's say you have a Barber Coleman in your shop that you still use and something breaks on it. We either have that part on the shelf or we can make it for you to print so you can get it back up and running. We also can service that machine expertly. The other thing it does for us in the case of some of the other brands that we have, like Blanchard, like Springfield, like Bullard, is we've looked at those technologies and what made them successful and incorporated them into new machine designs. Or like we will say, like there was a specific machine that they made, somebody has a process that might fit that, we might take a look at that and then resurrect it to a new design. One of the machines we do that's pretty cool, at least in my opinion, is we make it's called a Madison 900S, and it's a side grinder. So it's used to grind like a big cube of steel, and to grind it very accurately to get all of your 6 sides of that cube to be perpendicular and parallel to one another. So there's a customer in particular that had some very old machines of that design that we built them a brand new one of. One of the cool things we did is they had an older operator who needed to have his old manual hand wheel. So like if you've been around older machine tools, they have the manual hand wheels that when you turn it, it does something mechanical. It moves an axis. It moves something. Now you've got your MPG, which you click an increment. It doesn't have a feel to it. Like it does something, but it doesn't have a feel to it. This had a feel to it, so that it had, when you were moving that axis, be able to move it and feed it, because his process was very much a feel type of process. So the 2 machines we did for them had this manual hand wheel on them, but they were still CNC. So it was a pretty cool way that we incorporated an older way to run the machine with a newer technology and something that gave them a very accurate machine tool that just isn't something you'd see every day. So a very custom solution for them.
Now, obviously, you bought all this intellectual property, so the companies are somewhat in cahoots with you, so to speak. You ever run into like friction around you guys getting into something they see as more their bailiwick, or any difficulties with that?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we own every single print, every single drawing, every single schematic. So essentially we are the OEM. So like if you're looking to, get a set of manuals, get a set of schematics for your machine, like that's us. Like if you're looking to get a part made to print for your machine, that's us. So it's not necessarily that these companies still exist out there in any other way, shape, or form. Like we are those companies. We are Blanchard. We are Barber Coleman. We are Bellows.
Wow.
So there are other companies that do rebuild them, do provide parts for them, do remanufacture them, and they do a great job. But we have the capability to make that machine like it was on the day it was born, and have all of the records and documents, essentially the birth certificate for that machine, to say this is what it was, and we can make it exactly how it was.
Are there competitors that you have with similar ownership of other machines, or are you guys kind of the big player in that market with all these machines that have gone by the wayside?
Well, there are other companies that have bought the intellectual property. So there are some that own like what I would call the other part of the lion's share of American machine tool companies that they bought. They still represent those brands and buy parts for them. So there are other instances of that, but like some of the machine tools that we own, you would have considered the Cadillacs of their day. Like Bullard would have been the Cadillac of vertical turret lathes. The League would have been the Cadillac of horizontal boring mills. So they're still very much used to this day, and they're still very useful to a whole lot of shops that run them. So you'll find people who are very hesitant to replace it with a new piece of machinery in some instances, because they feel like what they've got is still worth worth running it despite some of the challenges of doing so.
So you guys are here at the show, obviously, for a reason. What are you looking for out of the show? What are you thinking as far as what you want to get out of your time here?
Yeah, we're really looking to just have genuine conversations with our customers and our partners, and really just, people that we're not working with, to be able to tell them a little bit more about what we do, and to really find out what sort of problems they have that we can help them solve. We're not necessarily a company for everybody. We don't have a solution that fits every person's manufacturing problem, but we have some very good solutions that we can apply to your problems. And if there's something out there that fits your needs, we can work with you on that. That's one of our strong suits, is custom engineering. Yeah. So we've worked on some very unique problems where just the solution just isn't out of the box, or it's something that we have part of the way there, and we can figure out how to get the rest of the way there.
Right. So, another piece that I learned about you from a video just yesterday on LinkedIn is that you're also a board member of the AGMA.
Yeah, so I am.
What do you do as far as your what you bring to the table in that capacity?
Well, kind of.
A loaded question.
A little bit, but I feel like I enjoy contributing to AGMA. Like, I've contributed to AGMA in a few different respects. I've been on the trade show committee and on what used to be called the Strategic Resources Network. Now it's called the Strategic Networking and Leadership Forum. So for younger emerging leaders within the gear industry, I've been a part of those for a few years, and I really feel like it's rewarding to contribute in almost any way, shape, or form, to advocate for what AGMA does, really, which, there are some very cool things they do besides just bringing all of us here in this industry together. Right. Is they provide education. So, you'll find that even, at our facility, we have a few people that have a lot of gear knowledge. It's not widely spread out throughout the company. And one of the cool things you can do is you can go to AGMA and you can get training on how to make a gear. You can get training on what the basics of a gear are. And being able to advocate for that, I think, is very cool. And being able to almost let people know that don't know is a great way to do that as well. But as far as being on the board, it's very rewarding to be able to have somewhat of a say in what the direction of this organization is. And to be able to give back in some way, to where we've had this as a resource to be able to connect with people and to get education and to really help be known within the gear industry.
Yeah, well, and it's actually come up, I believe, in every conversation I've had today, something around the need to connect with younger people, to provide that look into our manufacturing world, and to provide education, like you say. So I applaud you for that. Is that something that you do both with AGMA and with your company as well? Are you involved in your industry, helping, show young people who, again, decreasingly see manufacturing in their everyday lives, to understand what our world's all about and what a good career can offer?
Yeah, we do participate in Manufacturing Day. We do have local community colleges come in and local high schools come in for tours. And it's very cool to see kids come on in, and especially when they're really engaged and they ask a lot of questions and they get like a little bit of deer in the headlights. Look at what you're doing there. So that's pretty cool. A couple of the other things we've done internally is we've used a software called Tulip. So, there's this buzzword, tribal knowledge. We have a ton of that. We have people who work 20, 30 years for the company that know how to do these specific things to build this machine. Well, when that person's getting ready to retire, how do you codify that knowledge? How do you get that knowledge on paper? And some of those things are difficult to write down. So we've started using software called Tulip, where you can take video, you can take photos, and you can incorporate them into a work instruction on these kiosks that we have out on the floor. So you can take this kiosk right over to a machine with this lesson and apply that knowledge right there. So like one we did in particular is, how to tap the base of a Blanchard grinder for mounting the column. So like Al Wenmacher, one of our leads out on the floor, he was the only guy that really knew how to do that. Maybe it existed in a couple other people's minds because Al had shown them.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to say I could go out and do it, but somebody that we just brought in who has the tools and the skills and the ability to do that work, pull that up and be able to go do it without pulling Al off of a job or having Al come on over and watch over their shoulder. Or, when Al decides, hey, I'm going to do something else with my life besides build machine tools and build them really well. Now we've got something that somebody can look at to do that. We've done that with a fair amount of things that you would consider to be tribal knowledge on the shop floor.
That's excellent.
So it's not only education within the industry, it's increasingly education within your organization to make sure you have the skills, the knowledge, that transfer of knowledge to be able to continually do what you do. Yeah,
well, it's a great story because you touched on something else that had also come up in the morning session about, demographics are against us in that regard. The baby boomers being the biggest generation in recent times, and they're in the process of retiring now. So the numbers are somewhat against us. So having that as a resource where younger people who may not have had that training is definitely going to pay huge dividends for you guys.
Oh yeah, and you start seeing the change in demographic on our shop floor. Increasingly you're seeing guys in their 20s, their 30s who are doing the stuff that you usually saw the guys in their 40s, 50s, and 60s doing, and they're getting trained up, they're learning, and they're becoming the experts in doing that.
The other thing we talked about earlier is, even with all these solutions, though, with the numbers being against us, there also have to be other solutions like automation. Is there an increase in your world as far as the automation available and being applied to do the jobs within your company?
Not so much the automation at our company. We're very much a onesie, twosie, high mix, low volume type of shop. So, when you look at the machines we service and support, they might have made hundreds of these machines a year. Now we're probably making 10 or 20 parts that would go on that machine in a year. So that would be a big run for us. Same thing with some of our machine tool cases. We might do 3 of one machine style in a year. So, it's very much a low volume type of operation when you're looking at what we actually manufacture. However, on the other hand, one of the things that we're trying to address, and I know this is something that a lot of other machine tool builders do address, is taking what are typically been very complex operations on a machine and trying to distill them down to simple inputs. Right. So, on the gear side of things, we spent a whole lot of time working on our human machine interface, our HMI, to make it something that's easy, that's intuitive, that, even I can walk up and input gear data off of a print, input hop data off of a hop, and make a good gear. So same thing with some of the other niche processes like Blanchard grinding. It's very much was a feel type of thing. Like an operator really needed to know what he was doing, and you still need to know what you're doing to a certain extent. But we boiled it down to very simple inputs on an HMI. How far do you want to go down? How fast do you want to go down? How long do you want to spark out? And if you can tell the machine those things and have a general understanding of Blanchard grinding, you can run a new machine. So you don't necessarily have to have that, 5, 10, 15 years worth of experience to make good parts on a Blanchard grinder. So it's really taking those things that are very, and take time and experience to learn how to run a machine and how to program it down to just, it's a very easy process.
Yeah, so it's a different way of tapping into technology to make jobs that were those super specialized things that, someone who had decades of experience was the guru on, and now making them achievable by people who have less experience.
Yeah, you don't have to be a CNC programmer. You don't have to have decades of experience to get into a control and tweak it. You can sit down and make an adjustment and save the program. So it's it does help having that software. So that's a lot of the advancement we've been focusing on over the last few years with our machine tools.
Okay. So as you guys look to the future at Bourn Koch, what are you seeing out there for future opportunities, ways to grow, expand, anything like that?
Sure. You know, we've been working on a new machine tool design for the last few years, which is called MT Cube. So MT, little 3. Sometimes people get it wrong with call it MT Cube, and but it's MT Cube. So that stands for Moving Table Modular Technology Machine Tool. So MT Cubit. And what that machine tool is, it's a modular platform that allows you to interchange spindles to do multiple operations on one machine. So previously we had built like grinding and turning machines, but this machine takes it one step further and allows you to really custom tailor the machine to the operation that you're doing. So it has an interchangeable spindle system that you can take and grab, say, a turning tool, like an HSK 100 turning tool, and really do a very heavy amount of stock removal. But then say if you need to come in and grind a bore on that part as well, you can do that by interchanging into a grinding spindle. Or you can have a milling spindle and you can do pop holes in it, you can tap. So you can put a part in and take a part out complete. We've been proving that out on our shop floor, as we have one on our floor to do production parts for our machine tools. So it's been very cool to watch, Derek, who's been the primary operator of that, pick up that machine and work on some of those parts that are going into custom machine tools we're building. We're making 5 of them, where if we had to outsource it, it might have a little bit higher of a cost to it.
Definitely.
And Derek is taking that and running it very efficiently and getting extremely well-made parts off the machine, because we're really only doing basically 2 setups on it instead of doing, say, 5 or 6 setups on it. So that's kind of where we're taking some of our machine tool designs that are more standard. But the horizon for us is really focusing on those custom solutions that I've mentioned, and really finding those out there and how we can help people with something that is very, very custom tailored to what they do.
Yep. How did you get into all this?
So I've always been in, well, I won't say I've always been, but I was in inside sales for a company, and then I saw a job opening at Bourn Koch for being on their inside sales team. So I applied. I ended up starting to work for them, and I started on the Bullard product line. So vertical lathes, vertical boring mills, and basically was the parts and service guy for Bullard. So if you needed a part for your Bullard lathe, you called me up. And I went and researched through all of the bills of materials, found the right part for it, quoted it to you, and you bought it, and you got your machine back up and running. And I did that for a couple of years, and I really liked it. I've always had a little bit of a inclination toward the mechanical. So like I took drafting and design in high school. So I like that a lot. I like kind of more the, just the nature of planning things out, drawing them out, and wanted to kind of be an architect at one point. That wasn't, it kind of was one of those, so we'll take drafting and design and we'll do that. And so I could read a print, and I could interpret a bill of materials and do that. So it worked out. It was a fun job. And then I started getting more involved on like the marketing side of the company, and working on marketing materials and working on the website and some of our quotes and doing some sales engineering on the machine tools. And that kind of naturally led into being, involved in like selling machine tools, starting to travel, visit customers, learn more about the applications. So it's been kind of this tour of the company almost. I've gotten to work in a lot of different aspects of the organization, and even been out on the shop floor doing debugging of machines, worked with customers on applications. I know how to run most of our machines in some way, shape, or form, or I can at least give you a pointer or two on how you might do something. Take that with a grain of salt, though, sometimes, because I am just a sales guy, right?
Director of sales.
I joke about that. But yeah, I have a little bit of knowledge about a lot, and that's really helped me to really help our customers and our partners when they call us about something and say, well, you know, we have this problem. How would you solve it? And sometimes it isn't, you know, that we would like to sell you a machine tool. It's, well, you know, that's something that maybe you should go get, you know, a used machine tool for, that we can help by rebuilding your machine tool. Right. So, you know, I've really taken more of a consultative approach to whatever I work on in my career and how I can best help. So, you know, whether it's working internally with the company to, you know, say, improve the design of the website or design a brochure, or to, you know, visit a customer's plant, help them better understand this option that they purchased on a machine and how to best use it. You know, that's really what I'm kind of about. So
cool.
It's been a fun run.
How long have you been with the company?
Almost 10 years.
Okay. Yep. And then get out of the work world. What do you do for fun outside of that?
So
Bourn Koch.
I like hanging out with my family a lot. So me and my wife Annie, we have 2 boys. We have Joey and we have Sean. And Sean, him and I love to ride bikes together. So nice. He's 6, and I just bought him his first big boy bike. So it's got gears on it. It's got, you know, front and rear brakes, and him and I just go out and we just hit it and go. And so, you know, we put quite a few miles on our bikes this year together. Good. Even though he's 6, he keeps up like an 8 to 9 mile an hour pace, which is fast for a little one.
Definitely.
And then I like mountain biking too, so I do that. You know, Joey, him and I hang out and play video games together. He's very much like, he wants to be a video game designer when he grows up. So, you know, him and I will play Super Smash Brothers on his Switch, or we'll, you know, sit side by side and play Minecraft or Roblox together. So it's a good time. We like building Legos too. Awesome. And my wife Annie and I like cooking a lot, so we cook a lot of from scratch meals, making pasta and that kind of thing. Then I like to woodwork too.
Geez, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, so, you know, 2 kids and a couple hobbies. That's enough for me.
And a full-time job.
Oh yeah, a full-time job. Yeah. So, but yeah, we have a whole lot of fun. And we like to go on hikes a lot together as a family and just have a good time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe Goral, for joining us and telling us all about Bourn Koch, what you guys have going on.
Thank you.
And we're still here. We're going to be here all day. I've got a few more sessions yet here from the floor of Huntington Place with the American Gear Manufacturers Association Motion and Power Technology Expo. So we'll be back in about 15 minutes with another round. In the meantime, you know, go get yourself a drink and then tune back in. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Benoski. Watch for new episodes dropping every Tuesday. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.